We're talking criminal records, or how to clear criminal records from your name if you're wanting to apply for a job, you're wanting to travel, or you're perhaps wanting credit from the large department stores. But I think apart from that, you just want to know that you have a clean record. Would I be correct in saying that, Atiya?
Yes, it gives you a sense of dignity, Julie.
Absolutely.
I would imagine too.
How far back do these criminal records go? Let's assume I was involved in a petty misdemeanor 20 years ago. Is it still on my record?
Gee.
And what record are we talking about? Where is it sitting? Where in the system, and on what piece of document is it sitting that I'm not even aware of it?
Julie, the criminal records are very well documented. They go way, way back. I've worked with clients who've had criminal records for over 35 years. They would be centralized at the Criminal Record Center. And if you want to know if you have a criminal record, one would simply have to give your fingerprints, because from those years when they used to arrest people 30, 40 years ago, they would take your fingerprints and store it in the system. The system is much more advanced than it was, but they've managed to hold on to all those records. So by simply taking your fingerprints, you can get a report, a SAP 69 or a clearance certificate, which will indicate any criminal record or any illicit activity you have against your name.
So if I decide not to engage with you, if I decide I just want to check if I've got a clear record, do I just go to my local police station and ask them?
You can just take your fingerprints and, like I say, ask for SAP 69 or the clearance certificate. But you would know if you were arrested. I would think that, or I would advise my clients to rather do the SAP 69, because the SAP 69 has got a lot more detail. When I say this, Julie, I mean in the sense that if you were arrested and it's not corrected on the system, perhaps the case was withdrawn, and you find that when you're going to apply for a job, you're still being red flagged, so it wasn't corrected on the system. The SAP 69 will reflect what is reflecting on the system. So it could be showing case awaiting trial, it could be showing wanted. Also, the SAP 69 will show any special conditions. If, for example, you found unfit to work with children, or you found unfit to own a firearm, it will be mentioned on the SAP 69. So it's a lot more detailed, and it doesn't only show convictions. The clearance certificate, however, which is the document that most companies request, the document that most countries request when issuing visas, only shows when you've been convicted, that is, trialed and found guilty.
And the nature of the crime, is that contained in that piece of in that document as well?
Yes, the offense, the date it was committed, the date you were convicted, as well as the sentence. And that is a very important factor, Julie, because remember, this document doesn't show detail about the offense. It only shows what you were convicted of. So the severity of your offense is not mentioned there. But from the sentence, one can tell whether, it was a severe offense. Like, for example, I can steal this bottle of cream that you have here and be fined 60 rand, whereas somebody can steal something worth 20 million and then be fined a much larger sum. So the sentence plays a very important role in showing the severity of your offense.
How long does this procedure take? And obviously people will be very embarrassed approaching you about something like this. They'd also want to be reassured that their confidentiality is respected, obviously, as well. So how do you then engage with them? Because firstly, they're going to be shy and embarrassed to approach you about the situation. And then, of course, we're also talking about the length, the period. How long does it take to clear the record? And have you ever had instances where a situation can't be cleared, a record can't be cleared, and what would the reason be? So I've asked you a whole host of questions there.
Okay, to start at the beginning, Julie, when it comes to clients approaching us, there are thousands of people who have criminal records, and we allow the clients to feel comfortable and to know that we're not about judging people. Like I say, we know that you can make a mistake. It's very easy to get a criminal record. You can find yourself in a heated situation and just make the wrong decision. You can find yourself in a situation where you just want to get out and you pay an admission of guilt, fine. But you can also find yourself in worse situations where the crimes are more severe. We allow the client to feel comfortable. We talk them through it using knowledge and explaining the processes. The time limit would depend on which process we're going to take. If it is an offence that is less than 10 years, is more than 10 years with no jail time, and the fine does not exceed 20,000 rand, you must meet all three of these requirements. That is petty offences, your assaults and traffic fines, petty theft, those type of things. They just take a mere matter of weeks. When it comes to offences, and those we can guarantee, by simply looking at the police report, I can tell the client, look, you're going to qualify for what we call an expungement, and I can guarantee that the record will be removed. And after the record is removed, I assist the client to reapply for the clearance certificate, just to show that the record is now clear, it's been removed and deleted.
And that clearance certificate then you give to the client?
They can use it to apply for work or visa, or that type of thing. And then you get your more severe offences. Those are people who would never qualify for an expungement. Either they were sentenced to direct imprisonment or they paid a large fine. And then we make what we call the presidential pardon application. It's a much more complicated application. It takes a little bit longer in the sense that it's an application that has to go all the way up to the president. Now, this process is a platform on owning responsibility. You've got to accept your responsibility, because the last thing they want to hear, Julie, is that it wasn't me. This application, they ask for detail about the offense. It's about, yes, it was me. These are the reasons I committed the offense, but these are also the reasons why I feel I should be granted a pardon. And it's not just in my best interest, it's also in the best interest of the community and the people around me if you grant me a pardon. And remember, Julie, the last thing the president wants to do is to deny somebody a pardon who is deserving, and then you find yourself in a situation where you've got to turn back to crime to support your family. You can't get a job because you've got a criminal record on your name. So they take these applications quite seriously, but also you've got to be sincere in it, because you don't want to apply for a pardon, it gets granted, and then the next thing you know, you're back in the same line of work again, committing crimes and so forth.
Now, apart from approaching someone like yourself to help clear my record, would I have to appear, let's assume it was a major crime, it might have been violence or whatever it is, but it was something more serious. Would I need to appear before some sort of a panel or a judge or some such thing, just to reassure, for them to have some form of an interview or interaction with me to reassure that I am on the right track and I have cleaned up my life and I'm moving forward?
No, there's no panel, there's no formal interview, but you've got to provide documentary proof, like you're applying for jobs and you cannot get a job because you've got a criminal record, or you're applying to go overseas, or you can't provide for your family. Documentary proof. It's not like the TRC, because the time of the TRC, they had people who were actually confessing and giving details, that type of thing. This is all handwritten, but they do request a lot of detail and documentary proof, but it's just communication back and forth. So if something is unclear to the person who's dealing with your application, they will write you an email, or if somebody like myself, a consultant, is dealing with the application and they need a little bit clarity, they will contact the consultant to say, listen, I need more detail on this issue or that issue, and you will then send the information back to the person dealing with the application.
In terms of the presidential pardon, would you say the majority of those do go through, but how long would they take? And obviously, it's not the president who sits down and pardons you. He has a team of people working on it and pushes it through as quickly as possible.
Julie, it does take an excess of about 12 months. Can take about up to 12 months to complete and for you to get a final response from the president. What happens with those applications, they go through the Department of Justice, where somebody will actually read it. And they're not going to... They basically summarize your application, and they also make a recommendation based on what they've seen in your application to the president. But at the end of the day, the right to grant a pardon would rest solely with the president. So even if the person writing the recommendation thinks that this person should not be pardoned, and the president feels, I'm going to pardon, he has that right. That's why it's called the presidential pardon. At the end of the day, it's totally up to him. He can either grant the pardon or not grant it.
And finally, what about drug-related crimes? Let's assume you're a peddler or you're a user, or you know, you have a plant in the back of your house. How are those seen? How are those pardons or those clearing of those records viewed? Are they more serious?
No, they're treated in the same way, Julie. It would just depend on the sentence. Did you go to jail? And how large was your fine? And that would tell them already how severe was it. Because there's a difference between someone who was sitting in the car with a group of friends and just had some in the car, and somebody who deals it or grows it in their backyard. So depending on the sentence, you can already see the severity of the crime.
And what do you want to say to the viewers this morning? I know that you're going to end off on a note of positivity in terms of criminal records. And I'm sure lots of moms and dads watching us this morning who probably have had a problem child and know that there is a criminal record pending or, you know, on their file. What do you say to them? Julie,
the best advice I can give them is to encourage them to get in touch with somebody who knows the law, somebody who knows the restrictions about the law in criminal records and criminal record clearance, somebody like myself. But also, when you see the danger signs, sort of advise them and steer them away from it, because these type of things can have horrendous repercussions
which will
on their
haunt you
future
for the rest of your life.
Yes, the last thing you want to do is to have somebody who's now a university graduate coming and telling his parent 4 years later that, listen, one day I had an incident with my friends. You need to be open, especially with the youth of today. One day I had an incident 4 years ago with my friends. I got arrested. I've got this criminal record. And the father's paid university fees, looking at his child's bright future, and now he's got this thing hanging over him. So where parents can see the telltale signs of bad company, try to advise your children against it. Try to steer them away.
At the end of the day, there is hope.
Gee, there is hope.
Okay, great.
But if you can avoid it, let's avoid it. Gee.
How do people get hold of you?
My contact numbers are 083 718 9742. I've also got another number. It's 078 272 1962. They can also go to my website, Julie, and just see what it's about, the services we provide. That is www.Enact Consulting, that's ENACT, consulting, one word, .co.za.
Lovely talking to you, because you've given us so much of hope. And for people watching us this morning who've had a cloud hanging over their heads, worried about their youngsters because they know that, you know, they've been errant. Alhamdulillah, we know that there is someone like yourself, Atiya Ali, that we can go to and we can have those issues cleared up. Shukran very much, and may you prosper, inshallah. Atiya Ali talking to us about clearing up of criminal records. It is doable. It can be done. Let's go out there and make sure that we have absolutely clean records so that we can travel freely, and we know that we can find that dream job that we've had our eye on. Still to come on the show, we're going to be talking Earth Hour, and we're going to be talking trends for 2017. Stay with us, and remember, lines are open. We're waiting to hear from you.